Hello and welcome to the second ever edition of the Bet MLS podcast with DRo and Oso. I am Daniel Robertson, DRo at Daniel_Rob27 on Twitter. I realized last time I kind of forgot to mention that. So I mentioned
those aren't important. That's not important at all.
Actually not. Hopefully you didn't follow me last week. And then we've got the Oso Ben Bear over here as well.
Yes, Ben Bear 89 on Twitter. So I got that plug in. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good after last week. Maybe you not so much.
Yeah. It was an up and down week. We never got the video on YouTube last week, so you didn't necessarily see that I was wearing a PSG jersey, which I think that was just terrible karma. I learned my lesson. I've got my 2005 FC Dallas inaugural jersey, so we're dipping deep into the well this time. And
I got my I think it's either 2017 or 2018 Red Bulls kit. I figured today's a good day to wear a Red Bulls jersey, piss off Red Bulls fans and then wear their jersey. So it's all good.
And getting right into that, actually, as we review our picks from last week, the Red Bulls were the only team that actually let you down on your picks last week. So bold strategy there. A little recap.
Yeah, so I mean, that may not be the reason. Maybe it's an article I published today on barringtonmls.substack.com. Go and check it out. Betting guy coming on Friday, or today if you're listening to this on Friday. But yeah, they were the only team that that was my. I'm gonna put this in quotation marks. Best bet of the week. Maybe they were my best bet because they didn't win. But I won my dog of the week with Vancouver. I think they ended maybe at plus 390. I got them. When we talking about them as plus 340. I won my Chelís. Can you believe that?
Incredible.
I picked five teams
every week, right?
I picked 5 teams to win or draw. They all won or drew. It's incredible. Unfortunately, I didn't put any money on that one. I did put my money on Vancouver, which is good. I just forgot to put it in. It was late. It was kind of a hectic week. That won't happen again, I promise. But it would have been, I think it was like 1250 or 1280, something like that. That would have been really nice in my pocket, but can't win them all.
Yeah, still a plus. And, we talked about last week, the unit style betting on, especially early in the season, very, very, I'm glad I did it that way, but about plus 4 units overall for you on the weekend between the plus 340.
Yeah,
Chicago,
there was
both teams
Chicago, New England both scoring, which is I picked a different game to both score on Barrington MLS, but they both did.
There you go. So nice week for you. For me, I mean, look, when you bet an over and Vela is accidentally subbed out of a game, like that's when it's just, look, it just wasn't my week. Minnesota expected goals over 1. They had a shot off the post, a shot cleared off the line. The San Jose was just not great.
Just bad luck.
It was bad luck, but that's when, if you only bet 1 unit per game, you don't try to chase losses, you stick with what you're doing. It means that I'm not down that far in the hole, and I really like what I've got going this week. So yeah, I'll lick my wounds. Never wear a non-MLS jersey on the show again.
There you go.
And yeah, the soccer gods taught me a lesson on that one. So we're gonna get right into our best bet, our favorite team of the week. You want to lead us off, Ben?
Of course. So, you were just talking about Minnesota. I think that 4-0 scoreline in Seattle, I don't think it was that kind of game. I think, they could have had their chances. Bebelo looked amazing. Avila came on, could have had a goal or 2. So I'm going to go with them this week. Right now they're minus 110. That's what I'm seeing on BetMGM. There's, you can do some line shopping. We're always say, go and do some line shopping. But, for these kind of lines, we haven't really seen that much of differences between the sports books. So I have them as minus 110 against RSL. The reason is, they're licking their wounds. They're coming home. They're expected to be one of the better teams in MLS this year. Minus 110 is a pretty decent number for them. When they're playing against what I think will be the worst team in the league this year in MLS, which is Real Salt Lake. So I think it's an easy bet. They're coming home licking their wounds. They want to show that last week was an aberration. Another week of Avila in training. I think this is a good bet for me.
Yeah, I think the fact that RSL didn't play last week, there's a little bit of maybe like the opposite of recency bias, right? We don't necessarily know how bad they are yet. If that first goal went in Seattle for Minnesota, I think that game is a lot different.
Correct. Yeah, I think that was more a 2-1 game rather than a 4-0 game.
As someone with both teams to score, I really wish it was a 2-1 game actually. But yeah, -110. That's a good price, by the way. Getting Minnesota almost even money at home. I like that bet. My best bet of the week. We're gonna go to Nashville for this one. Another team that maybe a little bit of recency bias in terms of the scoreline didn't really necessarily reflect how well they played. I thought Nashville, okay, it was a disaster first 10 minutes against Montreal. The rough penalty kick. Okay, you'll give it to him a nice play from Avila, Acosta.
It was against Cincinnati, not Montreal. They're playing Montreal this week.
Right. So exactly. So, you look at Nashville after the first 10 minutes, they were by far the best team against Cincinnati last week. I thought they were really unlucky to not get a couple more goals. Their expected goals was over 3.
Yep.
So I really like them against Montreal. I think there's a little bit of recency bias there for Montreal playing against a Toronto team that, look, it was a hot afternoon game in Southern Florida. There was every reason for Toronto to come out flat in that game and kind of flatter Montreal a little bit. And I like Nashville at home. -145 is certainly a little chalky. I'll try to stay off the chalk too much there. But
those are not great odds.
Not amazing odds. I need to win this one. But I think that if we look at this game 2 months from now, if it's played, I think Nashville is probably more like -220, -230 kind of thing. I think you're getting a nice price early on in the season, given the result last week for both teams. So I'm going to take Nashville -145 as my best bet of the week. And I think that's a good transition as we go into our underdog of the week. Oso, why don't you hit me with that one?
So let's keep in mind first, this is a team that is plus 250.
Yes.
Or higher. And then again, so another disclaimer, not going to talk about Austin FC, me personally, on this podcast. I believe they're around there, maybe.
Yep.
Somewhere around there. So that's one less team off the board. There isn't that many options, but I'm going Montreal. Look. Should they have won 4-2 against Toronto? No. The expected goals, look at that and they say, no way. Toronto's coming off, a Lyon game. They played the same roster 3 straight games. It's not a 4-2 game. Is it a, draw, maybe 2-1 win? I think that's more in line with what we saw. Toronto chasing the game late. So of course, their total is going to be higher, because of game states. And Nashville, I think Nashville heard all the talk all offseason. Park the bus. This is just parking the bus team. And they want to come out and say, we're not just parking the bus anymore. We're going to play free-flowing soccer. And look what happened. Cincinnati draws them, a team. They acquired a lot of good players this offseason, but they've been the worst team in MLS for 2 years. They come into Nashville. Nashville has a good amount of fans there, and they still get a draw. I think Nashville heard all the talk. They want to come out. They want to play a more free-flowing style, and that can come back to bite them when you're playing against a team like Montreal with Romeo Kyoto and Mason Toye up top.
Quite the call.
So that's what I'm going with.
But look, you're right. The underdog pickings, especially when you're going to like 250 or above.
Montreal's plus 375, by the way. So right around where Vancouver was last week.
It's pretty freaking slim when you look at these. I really hate all of the options pretty much. But we're gonna stick to the rule. And by the way, what you're mentioning kind of with that Nashville Montreal game, we've talked about it already quite a bit. But over 2.5 goals, I don't have that one on my bets, but the over there looks mighty tasty on that one. Like you said, I have ill feelings for Gary Smith going back to 2010 as an FC Dallas fan. So I really never rooted for Nashville. Free flowing soccer and Gary Smith is not necessarily something that goes together, but hey, we'll see what happens. My underdog of the week, I definitely do not feel great on also, but I'm going DC United plus 500 at New England. I really like the price. It's all about the price for me.
Yes.
5-1. Look, these are two teams that know each other very well, play all the time. And if there's one team that knows how to grind out a game where they are getting battered and beaten and they can get a 1-goal win, it is DC United. I thought New England looked really good generally against Chicago. Kind of a case very similar to Nashville, where it was kind of a nightmare to start and they really recovered late. But hey, DC United, you're giving me a team that won in week 1. Plus 500. It's not like they're traveling a long ways here. I don't have a lot of good justifications for it, to be honest. It's more just, the number at 5-1. I like that number. I'm going to take a little one on it.
A lot of the stuff I talked about with Minnesota applies to New England in this case. We expect them to be one of the better teams in MLS this year. They come off, they got a point in Chicago, but they want to get those first 3 at home. So I think that a lot of that applies here. DC, they get the 3 points against NYC. I'm not sure how convincing that was. I'm not sure if they really deserve
not at
that
all
2-1 win. So I think the line here is about right, but maybe plus 400 is maybe where it should really be. So getting it at plus 500, I think is a good bet there.
Yeah, and it's as much like you kind of mentioned before, as much of a case of the other ones kind of being rough. I'll just take a big shot there and put a half a unit on it. Not a whole unit on that one. I'll put a half a unit on that one.
So getting into next category here.
Yes, I will. I'll take this one first. We're gonna go the total of the week, and this is gonna be an over under of both teams to score, something like that. And I'm gonna actually look at my favorite team, FC Dallas, going on the road to face San Jose. It was kind of a stinker the first game against Colorado last week, 0-0 result. Colorado probably honestly should have won the game. And that's part of the reason why I like the under here. Jimmy Maurer, perennially the most underrated goalkeeper in MLS, led the league last year in goals against average. And he made
former guest on MLS Fantasy podcast, so I have some experience with him.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a fan of all things MLS. And how was that? Is he a big fantasy player?
He didn't really know that much about it, but me and Bobby Warshaw, I think, got him going a little bit. Of course, there was some construction going on in the background at Toyota Stadium, so that made it even more interesting. I believe you can still find that on Twitter. So if you want to go and look.
Well, look out for that one. But yeah, Jimmy Maurer, one of the best goalkeepers in the league, basically earned the point for Dallas last weekend. Last year, in the last 8 road games of the season for FC Dallas, 3 goals scored or less in all 8 of them, and 10 out of 12 last season. 7 out of 9 home games last year for San Jose had 3 or fewer goals. So, and when you go the under 3 here, when I'm looking at over unders, I like to think in my head before I look at the line, what would I place it at? And for me, this was a 2.5. I thought I think 0-0, 1-1 is a very likely result. 2-1 either way could certainly happen. I don't see FC Dallas as a team that can score 2 goals right now. And I don't really see San Jose that much as a team that can score 2 goals either. So, I like
they should have scored 2 goals against Houston. I'm just saying.
That's Houston.
That chance.
But that's a Houston defense that is considerably worse than FC Dallas.
Much worse, yes. I'm just saying.
So give me the under 3 because I really like also just that safety net of the push there at 3. I wouldn't really like 2.5. I think that's really tricky.
What's the
minus 115?
Where to get it?
It's minus 115.
Minus 115 under 3.
Yes,
that's pretty good. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's one you're gonna win this week, or at least push.
Exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. So go ahead.
I'm gonna go with a team we've talked about, Chicago, and a team we've talked about on this podcast before. They're going to Atlanta. Atlanta did not score last week against Orlando, but I think they're coming off CCL. Joseph didn't start. I think they'll have they're getting a full week's rest. Of course, they'll have CCL again coming up after this one, so that's going to be a whole thing with this whole week in terms of betting because you don't know what the lineups are going to be played for these 5 teams. But Chicago just gives up a ton of goals. We know that Joseph's going to be starting, I believe. So I'm gonna go over 2.5, and it's at minus 175. I think it's at least 3 goals here. I think you see Chicago at least giving up 2. And Robert Barrett is he's one of the top 5 strikers in MLS right now. I'm not sure he may not score another one, but I think they have a lot of attacking options. I think that Chicago is going to be an exciting team on both ends this year, and I think we're going to be talking about a lot of overs here.
Yeah, and I think that's one also. Minus 175. If you don't like the chalk there, getting it at over 3. You push with 3, but I agree with you. I think more than 3 goals in this one is very likely. Are there going to be fans in Atlanta for this one? I believe there are.
I thought I read before there was going to be 50%, which seems like a lot, but we'll see.
We'll see on that one. But yeah, I mean, Joseph at home. I'm never going to fade Joseph at home. I was surprised he didn't score last week. So yeah, we've got an over there and we've got an under on our totals of the week. Next one is a new category for us as well. And this one, I want to say right off the bat, when you're talking about goal score of the week here, don't do full units on goal scores. Typically, that's not really a huge avenue to being a huge moneymaker long term. But it's fun to put a little here and there on the goal scorers. And this is an entertainment show. So we're going to look at our goal scorers of the week. Why don't you lead us off, Oso?
So we're gonna go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia did not score against Columbus. Of course, they did have the in CCL they did have some very good performances. One of the goals that was scored in those games was by Kasper Schmeichel. So we're gonna go to him. He's plus 165 to score. He typically, the last couple of years, he scores at least once every 3 games. It's only 2 games, but he's not every other game, but close. And I think against the Miami team that we just saw gave up 3 goals pretty easily. Not a big John McCarthy guy. I think that backline has a lot of meshing to do. With the 2 fullbacks just coming in, getting maybe 1 or 2 weeks training so far. So I think Philadelphia is going to want to break out again. This is another home team. You can see a lot of my picks are, leaning towards the home teams here to start the season. So I think he gets on the board.
Yeah, and I think when you're talking about picking goal scorers, you're almost fading the defense as much as you're kind of picking other guys. That seems to be a good strategy, right?
Yeah, I think the first thing you look at is I always I'm going to lean towards home teams a lot here, at least for the first few weeks until we get a better grasp of what's actually going on in this league, because MLS it's kind of crazy the first month or so, and then you kind of get a feel for it. Teams getting informed, teams getting out of form. So I think until we have that full really picture of what's going on, of course you have the CCL stuff to throw in there as well. But yeah, you fade a defense more picking the goal scorer. And again, if you're going to go with Philadelphia right now, Sergio Santos is just getting back into the lineup. Kasper Schmeichel is really their lone fully healthy striker. So I think that's a good bet there.
On goal scorers, I agonized over like 4 different ones because I'm trying to decide, do you want to go for the Hail Mary? I looked at Walker Zimmerman plus 700. That was kind of like a Hail Mary, almost scored last week. It's forced a really nice save out of Teton. That's one I looked at, but I got to go with kind of a chalky pick here again. And you mentioned line shopping earlier. On Bovada, it's plus 110. You mentioned he's plus 160 on BetMGM. So I need
165, yeah.
Yeah, I need to look around some more for this. But I'm going Chicharito Hernandez here with the Galaxy. He's such a streaky player, right?
Okay, Mr. Narrowed over here. I can't believe that. Wow. Buying all the way in.
How can you not love the story and the emotion on his face when he got the monkey off his back in Miami last weekend? We all know he's a streaky forward, right? When one goal comes, typically a lot of goals in his career came for Chicharito. I feel like with the monkey off his back and a New York defense that gave up 2 goals to SKC last weekend, traveling all the way across the country, LA Galaxy home opener, and he takes the penalty kicks. If you're giving me that at, again, like you said, plus 165, I was going to say plus 110. I love it at plus 165. Give me Chicharito Hernandez to find the score sheet. A couple others I looked at. Higuain is over plus 150, takes penalties as well. Ramel Kyoto plus 275. Michael Barrios plus 175.
We talked about Kyoto.
Yeah, do what?
We talked about Kyoto. Michael Barrios. Stop it.
He should have scored 2 goals last week against Dallas.
He doesn't score goals, though. We all know this. He only gets assists. He's not goal dangerous. That's why Lucci shipped him out.
Look,
come on.
he had some good chances last week. I'm not the only one I'm betting is Chicharito, but I like those as well. But again, line shop on these and wait until late in the week to place these bets, because you don't want to see a guy is maybe 50%, picks up a knock, et cetera on those.
Yeah, I would wait until the lineups come out for this.
Yes, exactly. Last thing we're going to get to here, the Chelís. You know what? I think it's like golf. If you hit yours last week, if you had the best score, you get to lead off on the next one. So 1-0 on the Chelís for the Oso this year. Let's hear it.
So let's remember what this is, the Chelís, after our favorite MLS head coach of all time, because he's wild and crazy. We're doing wild and crazy parlays. It's going to be at least 5 teams or at least 5 things, goal scorer over something crazy. So we're going to stick. I did last week. I picked 5 teams. So win or draw, they all win. So we're going to go along similar lines, not exactly the same lines, but here we go. Let's run it down. So I got DC win or draw. We talked about them, plus 145. Toronto, minus 200 at home, in home meaning Florida, against the Whitecaps. So now we're going to fade the Whitecaps after doing really well with them last week.
Traveling cross country.
NYC, it's home to Cincinnati. They're actually the biggest favorites we have on the board this week, which I'm not sure 100% agree with, but I think they're a good bet this week. Portland's a team that I would have brought up maybe for my best bet, my lock, but we have some issues with what is their team going to look like because of what CCL midweek. Yep. So could they be resting players this weekend? Let's bet that they're not here, and let's go if on Saturday night if we see they're playing their starters, that might actually move into my lock category because they're plus 105. I'm taking them winner draw. It looks like it's minus 350 right now. And then I have LA to win. We just talked about LA. They're plus 140. All of that together, forget plus 1489, almost 15 to 1.
And what I like also is LA, you've got the LA game in there. If you're good through the first four, you can bet on those Red Bulls a little bit, and maybe get a little bit of a hedge there. All right, so I'm going to go into mine now. I'm going to start out with Colorado Rapids against Austin FC. I love the Rapids at home here. Atlanta win or draw, as we mentioned earlier. That's one that you feel like they're at least going to get the draw at home. Nashville, mentioned them already. My lock of the week. You had Toronto as well. I've got Minnesota and I've got the Galaxy. So pretty big mix there. We've got a few overlaps. I've got your best bet in there, and that's coming in. The only winner draw is Atlanta United. Everyone else is money line, and that's coming in at plus 2385, almost 25 to 1. And again, I've got the Galaxy there in last that I will definitely, if I'm still alive, at 25 to 1.
Hedge.
I will take at least 5 units or so there of profit as I head out. So you've got the Chelises locked in. Right before we finish up, I wanted to we put out the hit on Twitter to see if have some fans who follow us at BetMLS _ give us their favorite kind of picks of the week. What do you think about Josh Otter, Philadelphia money line plus 100 lock of the week?
We just talked about them, with Shibilko. Miami, I don't think they looked very good, and I think Philadelphia's going to come to Philadelphia, and he's going to see something he hasn't seen so far as a professional head coach with this kind of style, and it's not something he sees in England either that much either. So I like the bet. Lock seems a bit tough just because of the CCL stuff, which is what we talked about. We don't know what this lineup's going to look like. If the lineup comes out and it's a starting 11, I like it.
It's a hammer. The one that makes me a little nervous here, he's got NYC FC Cincinnati under 2.5 goals plus 145.
Cincinnati gives up a lot of goals, and NYCFC, I can see them getting a shot of here, but it could be 3-0 right there.
And then last one, MLS bet assistant at Assist MLS. He likes Sporting Kansas City if Polito and Russell are 90 minutes fit, minus 110 there. What do you think about that one?
I mean, SKC looked fantastic last week, and they kind of outlasted the Red Bulls. I think the Red Bulls were the better team through the first 60 minutes, and then they kind of Red Bulls the last 30. They really, really pressed them, and they scored those 2 goals in a very short amount of time. And it was basically just off of mistakes and getting them in transition. And if Polito, and that was all without Polito and Russell. So if Polito and Russell come back, I'm not sure the 90 minutes fit yet. Well, it's going to be, again, you have to tune into the lineups, but I do like them. The only pause is, again, Orlando is going to come in. They only got to draw at home. They're going to be pretty hot coming into the Sporting on national TV on Friday.
Yeah, the very first game of the weekend. If you're heading into the weekend feeling like a little itchy trigger fingers on that one, wait till the lineups and we'll see what happens. So cool. We've got our bets locked in for this week. Successful week 1 for you, not so successful for me. Let's see if we can both have some W's in week 2, maybe another Chelís hits, and the beers are on me or you, depending.
Sounds
Ben.
good to me.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for everyone tuning in. Just to recap the picks again, real quick here, because I didn't do it last week. Best bet for Ben, Minnesota minus 110 over RSL. Best bet for me, Nashville minus 145 versus Montreal. Ben's dog of the week, Montreal plus 375 against Nashville. My dog of the week, DC United plus 500 versus New England. Ben's favorite total of the week is Atlanta versus Chicago over 2.5 goals, minus 175. Mine is FC Dallas versus San Jose under 3 goals, minus 115. Goal scorer of the week for Ben, Kasper Shibilko. Goal scorer of the week for me, Chicharito. Shop those lines around plus 160 for both, but definitely shop those lines. And finally, the Chelís for Ben, DC winner draw, Toronto, NYCFC, Portland winner draw, and LA. And for me, Rapids, Atlanta winner draw, Nashville, Toronto, Galaxy, and Minnesota. So we've got those recap there for you. And again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Bet MLS.